Look, we all think humans are cool, but we got a job to do.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has had its fair share of reboots. From a multitude of beloved cartoons to the nightmarish live-action theatrical outings, every generation has its own iteration of New York's favorite reptilian crime fighters. Mutant Mayhem is the latest, animating the Turtles in a brand new way. But the question is, whether you've been with them since the beginning or just starting out now, does Mutant Mayhem do the series justice, or should it crawl back into its shell? Welcome to Wicked Binge. This is everything we loved and hated about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Now consider this your spoiler warning. Okay, let's start things off with the most unsurprising part of the discussion. The animation and presentation is absolutely fantastic, shocking exactly nobody. Seriously, animation fans have been eating really good in theaters this summer, and I don't just mean popcorn and mini melts. We got the absolute masterpiece that was Across the Spider-Verse, Pixar's Elemental, which, although more middle-of-the-road by Pixar standards, had some of the more stellar animation in the studio's entire history. Not to mention Puss in Boots: The Last Wish at the end of last year. And now we have Mutant Mayhem.
Okay, Batman.
Dude, what? I'm just trying to hype you guys up.
The color palette is faithful to the classic style of the cartoons, using darker colors but accenting them with vibrant lighting and excellent animation. It also has a sort of comic book style to it, akin to the Spider-Verse movies. The sound design is great too, with a mix of famous songs and a newly composed original soundtrack by Trent Reznor. If all of this wasn't enough to spell it out to you, we loved the presentation. The movie is stunning to look at, with fun character designs and momentum that makes it hard to look away. Except for the puke jokes. Definitely still felt like looking away from those. But more on that later. Time to talk about the most important part of a reboot, the story. Mutant Mayhem is a great entry point into TMNT for someone who hasn't watched previous incarnations. The plot is simple. Gustavo Baxter Stockman, creates toxic ooze capable of turning ordinary creatures into superhuman or super animal mutants. When Cynthia Uttram sends her underlings to apprehend Stockman and steal his toxic ooze to create mutant super soldiers, his mutant family are abandoned, leading the evil Superfly to raise his mutant siblings and ultimately threaten humanity. That's not important yet though. What's important right now is the exposure of this toxic ooze to a rat named Splinter and 4 little turtles he adopted, who grow up to learn martial arts as self-defense after being rejected by human society, leading them to become the titular Ninja Turtles. Long story short, they're shut-ins who end up ultimately planning to take down the aforementioned Superfly and his gang with the help of their new human friend, April O'Neil. The story is honestly pretty much what you'd expect from a Turtles origin story, but there's really nothing wrong with that. For anyone new to the franchise, it's great to have a brand new origin story that gives a fresh start to an already beloved series, and successfully opens the door for sequels and perhaps a brand new franchise. We'll say that we like the story. It's a good start to a new take on the Turtles franchise, and if you ask me, it's got potential comparable to the Spider-Verse saga. But only time will tell. Just know that it's a good watch regardless of your age, fan or otherwise.
Why did we pick a fruit shaped exactly like my head?
Speaking of age, what's a movie you can't laugh a bit at? Probably a sad one or dramatic one, or the third SpongeBob movie. The point is, next up we have humor. Now, the teenage pop culture references the Turtles make constantly could easily turn some older audience members off, at least theoretically. We won't deny that seeing Mikey twerk caused us to physically cringe, and there's also the aforementioned barf jokes with April. But call us devil's advocate, we liked the humor. First of all, while yes, sometimes the Turtles' behavior can be cringeworthy, it's a refreshing portrayal of the teenage side of the Turtles. They genuinely feel like kids who don't really know what they're doing yet, and are only just learning how to become heroes. And the humor reflects that. It's awkward and fast-paced, with some jokes that don't land, but they usually hit. The pop culture references are generally pretty clever. The characters bounce off each other well, and Raph in particular absolutely masters the comic relief meathead archetype. The only reason we say we liked the humor rather than loved it is the aforementioned puke jokes, and a couple of the pop culture jokes do feel a bit forced, but that doesn't really take up too much of the movie's sense of humor, and it doesn't take anything away from it.
Did you say going loud?
That said, humor isn't the only important aspect here. If you have a superhero movie, you need to have some solid action. Now let's get back to the incredible animation for a moment. With visuals like this, everything in the movie looks awesome. Even just non-mutated Splinter running away from frightened humans. So imagine everything that's actually crucial. From Superfly remaining a mystery as he kills 2 humans he forced to do his dirty work, to the Turtles' multitude of fight scenes against human opponents, as well as an epic car chase. Even one scene that was just Mondo Gecko dodging falling debris on a skateboard. The action in the movie is great, and we absolutely loved it. But humor and action aside, perhaps the most important part of any movie is the characters. Enter the main cast of characters. I already mentioned that the characters bounce off each other really well, but that's actually just one aspect of them that we like. Each character has their own shtick, most notably the Turtles, each of whom is a well-written depiction of what you would expect an awkward teenage turtle to be like. Leonardo is the by-the-books leader, and what some have called the group simp. Raph is the meathead with about as many brain cells as the Turtles have members.
I'm awesome.
Donnie is the geek in the brains who's always got a snarky roast. And Mikey is just a gentle friend to everyone. Like, literally everyone. All the characters are likable, from the Turtles to the surprisingly sympathetic antagonists to the absolute badass that is Splinter.
Don't use that word that way.
I mean, it's 2023.
Sorry,
Mikey.
Dad.
What's more, there's actually significant growth for each character. From Superfly's family realizing there's another way to live in peace, to Splinter realizing his own prejudice is wrong, to the slow and steady maturing of the Turtles in April. The characters show significant changes as well as potential for even more. And as a side note, we gotta say, Superfly is an awesome villain. He checks every box on what you would expect from a sympathetic villain, to the point where it's sometimes hard to label him as truly evil. So, surprise, surprise, we loved the main cast. At this point, we've talked about basically everything there is to talk about in the movie itself, so let's move on to something a bit more meta. How does this movie treat the Turtles' legacy? Well, the reception from fans has been pretty darn positive from what we've seen. We've seen a multitude of cartoons and movies and attempts at movies and even video games from the series. Telling the same tried and true story would have not only been easy, but perfectly acceptable. But if you ask me, this movie does something fantastic by taking a long-running series and, while staying loyal to its core, brings it into a new generation. I think this movie hits just the right balance between appealing to longtime fans with the classic characters and even some old, undersung villains, as well as giving the Turtles, Splinter and April a new makeover that resonates with a new generation. I know we've mentioned Spider-Verse a weird amount of times in this video, but it really does feel like Mutant Mayhem is an attempt to give that sort of experience to the Turtles, albeit with a different story, just keeping the fresh reboot theme alive. And we liked this movie in this regard, and hopefully that stays consistent. Overall, what is there to say about Mutant Mayhem? Honestly, the movie was about as good as it could be. It takes a long-running franchise and gives it a fresh coat of paint, but rather than painting completely over what was there, it more or less accents it. This is a new take on the Turtles we've never seen before, portraying them as more inexperienced than we've ever seen. In an era of popular up-and-coming heroes franchises like Across the Spider-Verse or My Hero Academia, Mutant Mayhem fits right in and is a good sign for a brand new animated film franchise that we can look forward to more of.
I don't think this is gonna help people like you.
So what I'm saying is, give Mondo Gecko a main character role in the next movie. Oh, and also, Mutant Mayhem is great. We loved it. So get your half shell into the theater and watch it.